psychic development. Hear stories and experiences from the other side. And learn to listen to our natural intuition. Now, our host, Reverend Tracey Lockwood.
Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. Today, I am beyond excited to introduce our guest. His name is Daniel Scranton, and he has an amazing gift. He is a channeler, and for those of you that don't really know what a channel is, or you've heard the word and you're not really exactly sure, we'll have him fill that out. But in general, it is providing a conduit for messages from beings that are of a high vibration. And there's a difference between channeling and possession. Channeling is, they laughed, didn't I? I told you. Channeling is a discipline of allowing an energy that has a positive message to speak through you. It's a high vibrational contact, and it's according to the will of the person allowing the messages through them, the medium allowing the messages through them. Possession is a hostile takeover, usually addressed towards someone that has very poor psychic boundaries, maybe on heavy medication, maybe self-medicating, may have mental issues that they're dealing with and have not learned how to protect themselves and have succumbed to a negative vibration. Channeling is entirely different than that. And Daniel is a professional channeler. He has verbally channeled for the creators since 2010. He also channels many other collectives, including Archangels Michael and Gabriel, I love them, the Hathors, the Pleiadian High Council of Seven, Ophelia the Fairy, the Zetas, the Founders, and many more. He also teaches channeling, and he has a lot of students that go on to work as professional channelers. So obviously he's an excellent instructor. He's been teaching at the Intuitive Sound Healing Academy. That's a topic that really interests me too. And a course on how to thrive on a raw food diet. Ooh, high five on that, Daniel, because I just took on a vegan course, well, sort of a plant-based way of eating. And he also teaches a course on how to turn your spiritual calling into a business. I have a friend I need to refer to you. Daniel has also taught breath work and meditation, and he lives on an organic farm in Maui. And yes, that's Hawaii, and enjoys attending spiritual gatherings and has participated in ecstatic dance and loves to walk in nature and on the beach. So welcome, Daniel Scranton. So happy to have you with us.
I'm so happy to be here.
You had to laugh over my distress.
Well, I sometimes feel like I need to do disclaimers to people when they're experiencing my channeling for the first time, because my body moves a lot, and that could look like possession to some people. That could look very strange, and luckily I don't run across people who get scared and run out of the room.
Right. They're not lining up if they're afraid, right? I want to ask you, people go into different levels of altered states to bring through messages from spirit. And I know just in doing readings for my clients, when I'm bringing through a loved one or something, my speech patterns and mannerisms and sometimes phraseology or attitude shifts to that of the person that I'm bringing through, because I kind of think of us as clouds of energy, and when we get next to the energy of another being, we sort of naturally mimic and charade some of their things. But I also know that some people do channel in when I was at Arthur Findlay, in England, they called it dead trance, which is kind of a scary term, but
Right.
it just means that you're allowing your mind, your conscious mind, to go somewhere else and allow those messages to come through. And then there's that continuum of sort of letting go of your own consciousness and allowing more and more of the other consciousness. And of course, that's a very trust-based relationship between you and your guides and the entities that you've agreed to allow that way. Where would you put yourself on that spectrum? Like when you, how easily do you have a transition period as you move into channeling, or?
Yeah. Yes, I do. A lot of people, when they see me go into the channeling state, they think, oh, he's making these tones and these sounds to get himself in it. But it's not really that, because as soon as I'm making the tones and sounds, I'm already in the state. And they're
Yes,
all
are those
channeled. They're all channeled sounds. So
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah. I've heard one that you did with Kuan Yin, and it was kind of that. To me, it reminded me of the tone that, when the old TVs went off the air at night,
exactly.
kind of thing.
That's exactly what it's like. Yeah.
But I'm wondering, do you like? I know that if I have people ask me questions that are highly esoteric, like well beyond my left brain comprehension of things, that sometimes I go in really easily, but if I come out too quickly, it's like, I think of it like if you went down in the ocean and came up too quickly, you'd have the bends, some kind of thing. And I've learned, to regulate that. And I was wondering, when you said that, do those tones that are created, do you think that they are for sort of adapting your physical body to the higher vibrational realms that you're going into? Or do you think that they are sort of like, this is going to sound strange for some people, but I'm thinking of them like sound rays that kind of precede the arrival of that other energy, so that the listeners are able to adapt their vibration? What do you think about that? What do you think?
It's all of the above. I think that it serves many purposes. I think the tones themselves have healing properties. So there's a lot of overtones in the tones I make, and overtones will work on a person on a multi-dimensional level. So
to me, it created almost like a sacred anticipation of the voice coming through. Esther Hicks, a lot of people know about Abraham and Esther Hicks, but Esther doesn't go around calling herself a medium, nor does she call herself a channeler per se.
Right.
It's just sort of, she just goes on stage and just starts talking, and people assume, oh yeah, that's Abraham. And it is that direct. I think we have such, I was just thinking how amazing it is, but how wide our abilities are as spiritual beings in a human body. How would you say that being gifted, particularly gifted in this arena of channeling messages and different energies, how has that changed how you see the world? What perspective has that given you on life? Being able to have these encounters?
Well, it's a lot more interesting than I originally thought it was.
Right.
Life, that is. There's a lot more to be gained from going within than perhaps we're ever taught as children growing up, or even as young adults. There's the universe that we live in is vast and incredibly interesting and complex, and and if you're bored with planet Earth right now and what's available, just get ready, because we're opening ourselves up to so much more, and there's really, it all starts with going within. As soon as you start to decide you're going to go within more. And for me, the decision was kind of made for me.
Right.
Because I just developed like a great deal of tiredness in my early 20s, which led to me meditating before I even knew what meditation was, or that I was meditating. I just couldn't take naps. And so if I laid down and counted my breath to see, because I wanted to see how long I could stay down for and keep my eyes closed. So I would just count my breath for a certain number of breaths and then get up and feel great. And I didn't even know that was meditation, but I needed to do that. And I still continue to need to meditate. So part of my journey was something that wasn't even chosen. It was kind of like, oh, so if this is my life, how it is, then I have really no choice but to go within.
Yeah. And, of course, at a high soul level, that is what you chose,
Yeah.
Because, and like you said, it had so much fascination. And yeah, I think about Edgar Casey, the classic old time channeler that would go into AKA dead trance, and he would prescribe and diagnose and prescribe people's ailments and talk about things that were absolutely contrary to his personal beliefs. And I know, I've had some encounters in readings where I'm like, oh God, it's a star person, which is not something that, I just wasn't comfortable with. And, were you just naturally open-minded, and had you already sort of, had a sense of all these beautiful energies that you've encountered, or how did that happen? Did it sort of open and awaken in you? How did that work?
Okay, so yeah, I'll just launch into my whole story of how it started for me. I was going to Abraham workshops all the time. I had spoken with Bashar in a private session as well. I had read a ton of Seth books, probably like half of the Seth books that had been published at that time. So I was way into channeling.
You were very drawn to it.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I loved everything channeled, and there wasn't. I mean, this was just I just got into it like 11 years ago, and 11 years ago there was way less channel material out there than there is now. So, I mean, this is before YouTube. So,
right.
So
hail YouTube.
I was going to a ton of Abraham workshops, and eventually recognized that I was really not enjoying them as much as I could because I wasn't going within during the workshop. I was more focused on how can I get in the hot seat and ask questions, and that was just, it was like this whole thing where I eventually realized I would get more out of them if I would go within. And at one of their workshops, I actually started dry heaving, which, if you don't know what that means, it's like when you're about to throw up and you make that heave in your body.
Yes.
I would do that occasionally in meditation, and I did it at one of their workshops, and I stopped myself because I thought this is going to be a distraction to other people. And
if I barf right here.
No, I wasn't. I never throw up, but
no, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to insert. The first time that I sat in circles where people were channeling, I did feel like I was going to throw up, and I understand that now to be I don't know whether you consider it an ectoplasmic pull or whether it's that vibrational. Well, how would you? Because I don't have that problem now.
No, I sometimes will still get something like that, but it's like if I'm working on myself or someone else is working on me energetically, that I'll do that. at the time I understood it to mean something wants to come out of me, and there were
Yes.
something wants to come. And I had a few other clues about that, like I would do Reiki on people, and my arms and hands would move by themselves. Like I would just watch them as they would move, and it wasn't anything that I was controlling. I wasn't meaning to do these things, and they were happening. And
Yeah,
then when
spontaneously.
my lips started to move during Reiki, I was like, oh, channeling. That was the first clue that I got. And then the dry heaves. And then I asked Abraham about it the next day at the workshop. There was a 2-day workshop. And the next day I got called on. Again, my arm raised itself as I was sitting
Yes,
there.
I understand how that happens.
I raise. It was really funny. And then they called on me, and I asked about it, and they said, yeah, you got to work through that resistance because this is something that's definitely happening to you. And so
yes,
I stuck with it, and that's one thing I would say to anyone who wants to do what I do, is that the thing that I have in my life, which allows me to eat a disciplined diet with like raw food, and not only raw but all organic, is in certain areas of my life I've always had the discipline to stick to certain things. Other things I have to like force myself to do, but I stuck with it for these past 5.5 years, and it's definitely been the difference for me, is that I just kept doing it day after day after day. And I'm still not the channel that I'll be 5 years from now. And I'm, happy to see where it all goes, because it's definitely a process, and it's a process of, I want to tell another story. That fits into that whole, because you asked about the other beings, the ETs, and there was a guy that I knew. He's Abraham's cameraman right now. He's their main camera guy. And he and I used to hang out at the workshops, and he would talk about extraterrestrials a lot. And because I was such a hardcore Abrahamer, and Abraham wasn't really that into talking about ETs, I just thought, well, they don't really matter. Like, so what? They're out there, but who cares?
Right.
And so I was sleeping one night in March of 2010, and it was a very short, very vivid dream where I looked at this guy. His name's Peter. I looked at him in the dream, and I said, I understand now about the other beings. And that was it. That was a whole dream. We were like standing in a deserty area, and there was like a sign off in the distance. I couldn't really tell what was on the sign. And then I woke up from that dream. So everything that I'm going to say now is happening in waking reality. Like, I'm fully awake in my bed, and I'm getting scanned from head to toe with completely orgasmic energy. It's like lifting me off of the bed. It's so intense and so ecstatic. It was the most amazing experience of my life. And I started to ask for more as this was happening. At first I was just in shock, and then I started asking for more, and then I thought to myself, I wonder what this has to do with that dream. And then I thought, I wonder what this has to do with aliens. And as soon as I thought the word aliens, I got a huge surge of this energy through me. And so then I just started saying aliens just to get more and more. And then I started talking to them, and if the answer was yes, I would get a surge of energy. If it was no, I would get nothing. And then eventually I opened my eyes, and I thought maybe I could see them. And as soon as I opened my eyes, it was like starting the process all over again with being flooded with this energy. And I don't even know how long that went on for, but I think it ended at like 2:30 in the morning. And I got up, and I don't think I fell back to sleep that night after that. And then the next day I had already been meditating every day for 11 years at that time. And I just decided, and I'm going to go even deeper now. I'm going to see if I can get this by myself without needing help, and
right.
So it made me want to go within even more. And 8 months later, I was channeling.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So were the ETs, or I call them star people, but
Yeah,
whatever
that's a nice name.
nomenclature.
Yeah.
Yeah, the word aliens just kind of creeps me out.
Right,
I don't even
right.
like it regarding people, much less beings from another place. It's like, just don't use that word, you know. But were they the first energies that you channeled?
No, those were not the creators. Those I believe were the Zetas. Now,
That when I read the word zetas in your introduction, I wondered about that, if that were the.
I believe I was abducted as a child, and um, I have like a vague recollection of it, but not like I don't have strong memories. But from what I've been told about it from other channels that I've gone to, it definitely happened. And it was actually a pleasant experience for me. And so I
Yeah.
actually have a much nicer relationship to the Zetas than perhaps some people do, because, the Zetas, like everybody else in the universe, are evolving and they're becoming more in touch with their emotions because of us. And they're kinder, gentler Zetas than they were back in the day when they just needed our DNA.
Yeah, yeah. You're I want to go back a little bit to this sort of ecstatic
Hmm.
experience that you had. And it just popped in my mind, that biblical reference to the rapture,
Hmm.
and, how they discuss the rapture being at a time. I know it's generally referred to as the end of time, but I was thinking about people being translated into another dimension, no longer there. And I thought, oh my God, that's so interesting. I know that the Bible isn't entirely intact after all these years,
Right.
but that's kind of interesting to think, wow, were they talking about, abduction or translation to a higher dimensional frequency?
There's a
I don't
lot of
know.
people who will pick apart the Bible and find those passages specifically where it. And if you watch Ancient Aliens, they're all over that on the
I
Ancient
don't have
Aliens
TV.
show. Well, you can watch it on your computer too.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. Um, they'll talk about the passages in the Bible that are clearly referencing ETs.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Yeah, no, I hadn't heard it. I just was thinking it. But so this in these beings, so when you channel them, I know you say that a lot of that, as you allow those energies through you, there's sort of less control over your, body motions or what comes through your mouth or whatever.
mhm.
But it has given you, hasn't it, sort of a feeling, a very intimate feeling of the different cultures of beings that exist at different levels?
Yeah, they all have different frequencies. They all have different energy that they share with me, basically, and that I feel and that I've learned how to translate on a very subconscious level. Now, sometimes I get images in my mind's eye too that help
Uh-huh.
with the translation process, but that's one thing that people should know about channeling too, is that the channel's always involved. No matter how deeply entranced they are, the channel is a part of the process. They're not just a sock puppet that's being
Right.
used. And we have to learn to do this. We that's why I'm
It's a
saying,
discipline.
yeah,
It
it
is a
takes
discipline.
time and years of practice to get better at it. I've heard Abraham tell the story that Esther used to ask early on, "Hey, how am I doing? How am I doing with like the translation part of this?" And Abraham would always say, "You're doing great. You're doing fantastic," and fully knowing that she would also get better at it.
Yes, yes. I was thinking when you said that that you'll get better, that doesn't mean that you have not hit a tremendous level of proficiency. It just means that it's unlimited. And it's
Yeah,
so amazing that it's that way, too.
that's what I channeled last night from the Pleiadian High Council, is that the expansion will never end. the expansion of who we know ourselves to be, because we're source, but we're knowing ourselves as these people who are undergoing an experience of expansion. And as we expand, source expands too.
Yes.
So we're never going to like stop in the process of exploration. I think of all of existence as source energy exploring itself through all these different perspectives, and it's fun. It's like the only game in town, you know?
Yeah, it's really, really, really cool. What are, what are, I know you can't really pick a favorite, so let me say, what is the easiest energy for you to channel? Like,
That's
I know.
The creators are the ones that have been with me for the longest, so I like to go to the creators when I feel like, I'm going to be channeling for the first time for a group, or they're my go-to guys. But I really have found that the Pleiadian High Council is coming through in a very similar way to the creators. So and they're the new guys on the block too. So that's always the most fun to channel, is whoever's new, because it's like I'm getting to know them and their energy, and always wanting to explore new perspectives and new beings and new energy. So,
well, if you were to use a few descriptive words to talk about the presence of the Pleiadians, how would you describe them, and maybe contrast that to the Zetas or something?
Okay. The Pleiadians are really fun to me. They've got like a really playful kind of quality to the communication, where they'll use phrasing that Archangel Michael would probably not use. They're a very strong presence, a very, me, as you're listening to me talk, I'm not the most forceful guy in the world, and I think when I channel beings like these Pleiadians, it's like my voice gets loud and deep and very confident. So they're very confident in what they have to say and what their perspective is, and they're also very loving. They're also very compassionate. The Zetas come through in almost like an androgynous type of tone. It's hard to say like that it's a male or a female energy. Very down to earth. They're physical beings, so they're very similar to us. They call themselves our brothers and sisters, and they're like relatives to us, and they have that grounded perspective of life and emotions and things that we all experience.
I heard you. I haven't listened a lot. We were talking before the show about how when you're immersed in creation of whatever it is you're doing, you don't always get a chance to listen to other people. But I did hear you channel Kuan Yin, and she came through very feminine energy, very sage, very almost hypnotically interesting, like just an incredible energy. How would you describe Ophelia the fairy?
Same. It's like the same type of energy as Kuan Yin, but a different perspective, because fairies can still take physical form. They're very close to us vibrationally. So she's fully fifth dimensional, fourth density being, and we are kind of like straddling the two worlds at this point and getting closer and closer. But so anyway, one of the things I've noticed...
we're coming up on the half hour. Hold that thought, because I've got some more questions for you, and I know our listeners do too. And we'll meet back at the other half of this bottom of the hour here.
Okay.
Welcome back. We're talking today with Channel Daniel Scranton, and you can find information about him if you want to check him out on the web while we continue our show at danielscranton.com. His last name is Scranton, danielscranton.com. Before we get back, I need to take a minute and thank Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com for providing us the opportunity to air our show. Revolution Radio is the #1 listener-supported radio station in the world. So please help support our efforts and airtime by visiting the station's support page at freedomslips.com. Next week, we're going to have a guest with us as well. His name is Dr. Mark Pitstick. He is the author of Soul Proof, and that's SOUL Proof. He provides compelling evidence that you are an infinite spiritual and energetic being. He basically uses science to prove the non-physical. So that'll be very interesting with Dr. Mark Pitstick next week. If you missed this or you tuned in a little late and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed a channeler on there, tune into YouTube. Again, you can find Daniel Scranton at his website, and I'm sure he's on YouTube and other places. You can also find past episodes of this show on YouTube, youtube.com. Put in Medium Tracey Lockwood, put in From a Medium's Perspective. You'll find us. Or on my website, I list them all on the radio show, TV show page of my website at mediumtracylockwood.com. Daniel, how cool. We were enjoying talking about the qualities and characteristics, personalities of some of the different energies to sort of differentiate them for our listeners. And you were about to say something. What did we lose?
We were talking about Ophelia, and she's a fairy, and they have beautiful energy to share with us, but they're not teachers by trade. So it became harder and harder for me to channel Ophelia because Ophelia just wants to play and love and spread light, and she doesn't really have a lot to say.
Yes.
Other beings are really here to teach and support, and so that's why you see so many people channeling Archangel Michael and Pleiadians and Ascended Masters, is because that's their role. That's what they want to do.
Yeah, you were contrasting the Pleiadians with Archangel Michael. I channel too, but I do less channeling and more within the context of a reading. But of course, guides and angels get mixed up in there. You do more channeling. Do you also do readings as well for people?
Yes. Well, what I call my form of channeling is direct voice channeling, so that it's coming directly through my mouth of what's being channeled. Whereas when you go to a psychic, it's a similar experience for the psychic.
Yes.
The psychic is just relaying what they're getting and saying, okay, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm getting. Whereas the direct voice channel, it comes through, and when it comes through the channel, what you get also is you get the transmission of energy through the channel. So the channel's not just channeling words, we're channeling energy, we're bathing the person in high frequency energy, and the beings that we work with are also working on the people. And so people, when they come to me, and yes, I do private session readings,
one-on-one sessions as well as group
sessions. My group sessions are every Thursday night, and this week is the Creators. And if you go on my website, there's a tab for events, and we call those sessions the group live Q&A. So
very cool. That's danielscranton.com.
Right. And I sometimes work with another channel who channels Archangel Gabriel. Her name is Shelley Young, and she and I will collaborate usually once a month and do a group session on a particular topic, and people can come to that and ask whatever question they want to ask.
Yeah. Do you find when you work with groups that it is messages sort of intended to inform at large rather than like a personal message that you would give during a one-on-one?
Oh no, the group sessions very much, they all get to ask very personal questions in the group sessions.
Okay.
So that's, yeah, there's a general reading at the beginning of the energy, and then it's what people who attend will find when they attend is that their questions are getting asked by other people too, so it's all very much for the group, even if one person is taking the lead, because that's how orderly the universe is.
Yes, yeah. It's interesting, the different scales of messages. Some are sort of prophetic for the culture or for the earth at large, and then some that are geared toward, like you do with a theme for that day and time.
Yeah.
Is of course inspired, and then the personal level of messages. What do you do when you're preparing to channel? I know that you maintain a raw eating lifestyle.
Yeah.
What else, like when you prepare yourself, what is your process that you go through before you begin to channel?
I channel so much now that it's not like I could be walking in nature and I'll just start channeling. So
very natural to you.
Yeah, it just comes through. I'll be taking a shower and all of a sudden I'll notice I've been speaking for Archangel Michael for a while So there are times when it just does come through. But I take care of myself. That's like my number one job.
Yes.
And that is my health and my fitness and being in nature and hanging out with my cats and only socializing when I really, really want to. I spend time here living on the heart chakra of the entire earth. With a view of the ocean, and it's easy to maintain high vibration. I've got 3 cats. They're all amazing and they love me and they're fun and
well, they're natural healers and also it's almost like gatekeepers too, protectors. Yeah, I find the more that I do this, I've been reading, I guess, since 2011, that it has become essential for me to, it isn't like you said, it isn't like you go through some giant ritual and this and that and, shake off stuff and clear stuff and do this and do that, although there's a minor amount of that I do. But it's more, in order for me to be able to function during readings, and it sounds identical to what you said, and I'm so glad you said it, that we have to take care of ourselves. Right. We have to feed our bodies, rest our bodies, give ourselves downtime, and that connection to nature, it does kind of call to you to have to do that in order to be in the right headspace to be able to bring through that type of energy.
I had to explain to my ex-girlfriend not to come to me 5 minutes before I'm about to channel something about our relationship that I'm like, you can't do that. I need time to, I need at least 5 minutes to be, in my own space and to be able to raise my frequency to where it needs to be. So, and another ex of mine, she would come to my workshops and then ask questions about our relationship while I'm channeling to
my God.
To my guides. And I had to say to her
very distracting.
What are you thinking? You can't bring that to a session.
Right. And that's that battle, because you have to, in order for you or I or anyone that's doing this type of work to function, we have to let go of our ego. We have to let go of our intellect. We have to let go of our preconceptions and step out. And it's a very fine resonance. It's a subtle energy that we enter into and discipline ourselves to stay in that energy. And it is very distracting. And I think people don't always get it, that when you ask a question that's left brain or provide too much information to the left brain that it, it's not that we're professionals. It's not like we're going to get thrown off track, right? But it is distracting because it's not the level that we're receiving our it isn't coming through our left brain, our analytical part of our brain. It's coming through our intuitive, subtle energy body, light body, however you want to think about that.
Yeah, so there's two things that happen when the person is the client or whoever the questioner is in this scenario. There's a couple things that happen. One is that the person is drawing through the answer too. So everyone's creating their own reality. And so it's really the quality of the question, the depth of the question, the intensity, the desire behind the question, all of that is playing a role in then what comes through the channel. And what I've also found is that people get their own messages when I'm channeling for them. They're also receiving directly from within. So they're not just getting it from me and from the beings that I channel. They're actually receiving their own download. So they'll come out of the session and say something that they got, and I'll know it was not through me or my guides. It was
but that's you creating that energetic environment for those messages to come through. I've had that happen. And we were talking before the show about how occasionally our clients end up channeling back to us in a section, which is, I'm not even sure they're aware that they're doing it, but I know when I hear a message from Spirit where it comes from. You were mentioning also before the show that you're noticing this kind of trend toward
awakening,
an awakening, Tell us a little bit about that too.
People keep coming to me and telling me about their. I'm so impressed by what my clients experience, by what my students, because I teach channeling, what they're bringing through. It's amazing to see. My best friend right now is somewhere else on Maui telling me about his experiences with spaceships that he's seeing and downloads that he's getting and channeling that he's doing. And he and a client both came to me within 24 hours talking about the Guardians. Two people.
I don't know who they are. I'm sorry.
Well, I actually heard Corey Good, who's been interviewed by David Wilcock for like the past year now on Gaim TV, talk about the Guardians. It's I don't know who they are. The Guardians could be Arcturian. I'm not exactly sure who they are. I know the Arcturians are around a lot, and I do know also that we're coming to a time where we don't really need guarding. We don't really need protection at this point.
From ourselves.
We passed the test. We made it this far, and so I think even the term the Guardians is maybe a little antiquated. I know there are beings that live underneath the surface of the earth, and they are human. They're just really ancient human beings that live under the surface of the earth, and they also, that's where Corey Good got the name the Guardians, is from them. So they have a very, very old relationship with these beings, and I think now is the time for us to be responsible for ourselves and stewards of the earth and, see these other beings as our equals, not as our protectors or.
We talk a lot about different dimensions or states of awareness and also, like, I think of, you were talking earlier about, each type of being has a particular vibration, and we can't see what we can't imagine. But it doesn't mean that it is not real when we tune into that particular frequency. It's sort of like that light spectrum, the part that we can see is very limited, but we all know the effect of microwave and, ultraviolet radiation, even though we can't identify it exactly ourselves. And the same with sound. You're a sound healer also. But uh, it's sort of interesting to think like, the elementals holding the fabric of the world together,
Right.
and these other beings being aware of our existence, some more aware than others. I kind of find it interesting that some of them might not see us, just like we might not see them, kind of thing. It's just very interesting.
Yeah.
When you started talking about the guardians, I was like, I wonder if they're physically there or that's like another dimension, or, like I was just getting my mind
Right, exactly. And then there are
going.
beings that can be physical if they want.
Yes,
They
yes,
don't have
yes.
to.
Well, and then there are those that come to our sentient awareness, spontaneously beings appear to people. It doesn't make them a medium or make them a channeler to see them. It's a spontaneous appearance where it's more on their end that they're pushing their self into our awareness. And then, the discipline that we were talking about earlier is when we can reach into those different vibrational fields almost.
With intention. Yeah.
Yeah, intent with intent. Yeah. Yeah. Well, would that's probably rude, but I was going to ask if it would be if you felt like we have enough time for you to do a short channeling, or maybe you would prefer to share some techniques with people.
Well, it would be, I know we only have till another 5 minutes, and it would
Yeah,
be
probably
half the time would
7.
be the toning. So
Yeah, okay. Well, they'll have to tune in on other ways to experience what it's like to hear you channel. What if people were wanting to open up to, I liked it, you said going within, and I've been juggling the differential between meditation, which is something that makes us more self-aware, and then psychic exploration that makes us more other aware.
Right.
Both of which can occur within or without.
Right.
But what would you tell people if they are trying to tune themselves, trying to? What would you recommend for them to start developing?
The hardest thing, the most challenging thing you're going to find is trusting yourself, trusting that it's real, and that what you're doing is actually connecting to something else. I think so many of us will experience something and think, yeah, but I felt like I was making it all up, or it was just my imagination, or something like that. And the truth is, we're always making it up. It's always a creation of ours. And that's the thing that I want to make sure people understand, is that the channel is part of the process, and that you're not just supposed to become an empty vessel for anybody or anything. You're supposed to collaborate. You're supposed to commingle and merge with energies and create something new, something that's grounded in the physical dimension, so that it's relatable to other people's lives.
Yes. Yeah, that translation sometimes is a challenge. People get images or feelings or symbols or words, and getting that into letting it flow into something that's comprehensible and meaningful.
Yeah, just relax if you're having those experiences. Don't strain yourself. Don't try. Just relax more into the experience. Let it happen. It's a process of allowing. It's not a process of making it all happen. So
yeah, you were talking about self-doubt, well, that just can't be. It's so random. But I know you find, and I know I find sometimes that it is those random details that are the evidence. They are the proof of a genuine connection.
Yeah, you'll get confirmation. That's the great thing too, is that you'll channel something, or you'll see something, and then you'll get a confirmation of it from somewhere in the universe, and you'll be like, oh, okay, so that was real.
Well, and I think our brain questions, like our left brain questions the experiences of I want to call it our right mind, because our mind is perceiving things that go beyond the perception of the physical world that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't necessarily compute, but you can tell also, like, how do you feel with that? Like, is it a positive energy or a negative energy?
Right. Does it resonate? That's the question.
Does it resonate?
That's what makes is Eckhart Tolle channeling? Well, who cares at the end of the day? What Eckhart Tolle is doing is of great value to all of us, and the man embodies what he teaches, and so it doesn't matter.
Right. And, Einstein was probably one of the most metaphysical people that ever walked the planet, but he was not all about this, But some of his sayings are quoted throughout the metaphysical community, right, because his insight, energy, let's say matter is energy, energy is light. We are all beings of light.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, like, yeah. Wow,
Mm-hmm.
So what is next for you? Where are you? What's your current?
I still have a little bit of planning to do for May, and like putting new things out there for people. But everyone who goes to my website, you're going to, if you stay for at least like 45 seconds, I think, you'll have a pop-up window come up in front of you, and there'll be a discount code that you can use if you want to book a session with me or learn to channel with me. It's 50% off for first timers. So
that's a deep discount.
Yeah,
Thank
and then if you put your email address in too, you'll get a daily quote every day that'll come from my guides channeled, and that's free. So
that's beautiful.
I think once you get on that mailing list, you'll be aware of everything that I'm going to be doing, because I'm not shy about offering the emails that say, hey, this is what I'm doing now, because I'm giving away free channeling every day too. So you'll get a lot of emails, but 90% of them will be free content. So.
Oh, thank you so much. And Daniel, thank you so much. I don't know how many hours difference it is in Hawaii, but I'm going to guess quite a few. What time do you have there?
It's almost 10 a.m., but I actually was up early this morning, so.
Okay, my brain can't compute that because it's like almost 4 p.m. here. But anyway, thank you again for joining us. If you want to reach Daniel, his website is danielscranton.com. If you'd like to reach me, my website is mediumtracylockwood.com. We will see you next week for a view of life from a medium's perspective. And remember, it's never inappropriate to be kind. And without integrity, you have nothing. See you next week.